Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Amanda Johnson. Amanda is a fellow expert storyteller and helps people reflect back their own stories and see new possibilities by understanding how to express themselves in both talks and books. And today it's going to be an honor to take her through a process of creating and sharing her story while also getting lots of great inspiration and ideas for better storytelling for you listening in. So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Amanda Johnson. Amanda Johnson, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to someone who loves story as much as I do.
I am always excited to engage and learn more, and it's one of the broadest and deepest topics that there's always something new to learn from. So it's always an honor to have fellow experts on my show. But give us an opportunity to get to know you a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Sure. So today I am the CEO and Oracle at Save by Story, which is a writing and publishing house. So we help individuals from inspiration to impact. I have an idea, but I don't know how to get started, or I wrote something and I'm not sure it's not good enough to publish, all the way to helping them get a brand off the ground and launch the book. And because of the work that I've been doing, helping people through the writing process, there has been what we call story saving unfolding. When people have the opportunity to look back at their stories and sort of wrestle with some of those moments that they're not really excited to share, understatement. There's an opportunity for some rewriting and some healing to happen. And after 20 years of watching that and, doing so inside a kind of a small bandwidth for myself, right? I can only serve 6 or 12 people at the capacity to write full books every year. So there's a whole new season coming with the Story Oracle. It's my new speaking and facilitation brand that I'm getting off the ground now.
Amazing. Tell me about the word oracle for you and what does that mean? Why did you choose that? And how do you fulfill that?
Sure. Okay, so my favorite one of my favorite movies of all time was The Matrix. And strangely, even though I really empathized more with Neo because I was in the middle of a worldview shatter when I watched it, I actually loved the Oracle the most. She was the most mysterious. And that part where he's sitting across from her and he says, he basically asks her, "Am I the one?" And she says, "I don't know, are you?" And like hands him a chocolate chip cookie. And it was so impactful for me because it was something that I was living. I had sort of been told what my story was going to be my whole life. My set of beliefs about the world and about my creator and about all of, what my plans should be for the future. Oh, you should be a teacher, you should be a journalist, right? And so that moment was like, that's what I really want to give to people. That moment of saying, I don't know. Who are you? Like, do you want to claim that? Do you want to pursue it? And as I began coaching individuals, I realized that I could see a lot, as you probably can when you talk to people, right? Like you have this ability to sort of see beyond what they're saying and hear a little bit more than what's going on. And my first few years of coaching, I made the mistake of saying too much of that out loud and not really reflecting back to them the opportunity for them to see it for themselves and really work more with questions than possibilities, even.
Tell me about the books you write, or and how you help facilitate that creation, and what kind of people are coming to you to write books, and what do they want to achieve with those? Sorry, there's a lot of questions.
Lots of
I think
questions.
you
Yeah.
could bring it all together.
Yeah. And it sort of changed across time, right? In the beginning, I had a lot of individuals who had big dreams to become speakers and coaches. And they were feeling that call to share something really important with the world. And they were more focused on the message than the story. But as you know, messages fall flat without the stories to sort of carry someone through a transformative arc with you.
Mhm.
And so as I began to, really work on those stories, I began to see them again, wrestle with some of those things. And a lot of them actually had such incredible, I don't even, they're not changes of mind. They're like changes in the soul, like healings, like understanding that they'd sort of been storying their lives improperly. They'd been seeing it as half a story. And so when they had this whole story that they could present to the world, some of them decided not to move forward as speakers. They actually decided to go back to where they began and to the places they said they never go back to. And then, I have a lot of individuals who are mostly high performing, overachieving, people who are giving their all, helping other people in the world as therapists or educators or social workers or, even grandmothers, right? Making a big difference in their families' lives, sort of changing those family stories, and they want to capture them. And so they find me because um, something gets stuck. They can't quite figure out how to translate something that's the easiest and most natural thing to them to the page. And so that's where I come in.
I understand that. I imagine I know the answer to this, but you mentioned like a few people when exploring the places that they don't want to go end up making entire life changes and kind of leaving things behind.
Mhm.
Um, do you consider that a win in your books? Are you proud of creating results like that and why?
Yes. I'm very, very proud because I feel that one of the toughest things I see in our industry, the expert industry, is this idea of pivoting. Pivoting to the thing that's trending, or pivoting to the thing that you really want to do now, or pivoting to the new thing. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, there's obviously adaptations and all those things that we need in order to grow with what's happening in our industry. But I find that a lot of people leave parts of themselves behind. A really good example of this, I was just speaking with someone the other day who said, one of their friends who's this big speaker, has this amazing career, decided to share the real story on stage,
Uh-oh.
you know? And, um, and it went so badly that somebody that he respected told him, "Don't ever do that again. Like, don't tell that story." And I thought, "Man, that's probably where his biggest source of medicine and elixir is," but he made the choice to process it in front of people instead of wrestling with it on the page in a community, in a safe sort of space where there was someone who, um, was sort of gently taking him through that process. And what a shame if he leaves that part of himself behind. It's probably a part that was traumatized to begin with, and let's just keep adding trauma upon trauma. So, what happens to someone who becomes more and more and more successful and leaves more and more and more of them behind with every level that they move to?
Yeah. I have a certain framework or a language around a situation like this. I've seen this. The stories have life cycles. They can be in three different life cycles.
Mm,
The first is too soon.
mm,
And a too soon story is like getting on a wild horse that's very strong but never been trained.
yep.
And it won't take long before it's the boss. And you are wondering why you ever got on this horse. And that story sounds like a case of that.
Mhm,
There are stories on the other end of the spectrum that are too old, that you can tell them and they are factually true, but because you have grown past them, they don't feel resonant to you and thus feel almost deceptive or flat to your
mhm,
audience. And then there's ones right in the sweet spot that you have done the work, like you suggested, of journaling and with a community to process the story and can still draw upon that energy in a strategic way that's in service to the listener. And I love, I mean, even that outcome. I have a similarly proud one where over the last year, one of my clients who's been a CEO of a big biohacking clinic, a big achiever like what you've been saying, um, we were creating a story about one of his past kind of career moments. And he gets confronted by like a mentor and a guide to ask if his family's afraid of him. And he I remember him recounting this story in front of a group of us, and he like kneels down as if he was there just right in front of his daughter and kind of tells the story of asking if his daughter's scared of him, and she is because he's overworking himself and grinding himself down. And it's how he recognizes that impact for the first time. And so this story occurs years before, but in some ways he's reliving it in the clinic that he's living in. It's demanding long hours. It's in a different state. He has to travel a long way for it, and is like getting good results, but is giving it everything he has, and it's paying him really well, and he's able to provide a good life for his family. But as he starts telling that story, it becomes really difficult for him to ignore the dissonance between the moments that are occurring right now and the story. And I see over the process of a couple of months, he does share it on stage and has a bunch of high achievers coming up to him, talking to him. And new opportunities start to come up, and he starts to hold his boundaries a little more at work and starts to spend a little bit more time at wanting to spend more time at home, and ends up going through this entire transition of leaving this highly demanding position to do something that was a little bit of a better or much better fit for him, and he could do entirely from his own home, but doing some traveling for work, but just a much better situation. And he navigated it all from a place of power.
Mhm.
Um, which, I can't like claim that it's this one story being told that changed everything, but I think, and kind of what I feel you touch on as well, is like tapping into that truth time and time again and really feeling it and sharing it and being able to articulate it in a way that's not just in service to ourselves, but in others, starts to shift how we make our choices and what we see as valuable. And I'm also proud of somebody like using that as a way to guide them from a place of power to a really big transition like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, and I do find that when people say, I'm ready to share this message," they are generally met with a moment that reminds them a lot of where they started. So the past and the present collide, and I think that's what dysregulates them to the point where they can't sort of use all the mastery that they had to write the master's thesis or the doctorate or the previous book that they worked on.
Hmm.
There's something else going on that it just helps to have someone outside of you to say, I see this. Do you? Can you connect these dots? What's this moment like now? But it is beautiful how it connects us with our audience.
I entirely agree. And I think as a result of becoming high achievers that we are, we like get a neuroses that we kind of look at our own stories with a lens that is not very gratifying. And so I think, as you see too, it's like a lot of us are sitting on treasure chests of stories and opportunities and ways to connect. And we like feel like we're poor and we're just kind of lamenting, looking around everywhere else, but right underneath us. Um, and I think we really undervalue who we are because we've worked so hard on what we do, and it is necessary, or it's at least somewhat useful in the early stages to have this attitude and be this way. But I think when gets at the points of achievement that you're talking about, the thing that kind of got us there and the lens that kind of got us there no longer helps. Yeah, we like when somebody, I think, before coming with either of us, would like ask themselves the question, what stories should I tell? Your brain will like blank out on the very ones that we would probably go and dig for.
Yeah, absolutely. Seen it over and over again. People they walk in with so much mastery, and then there's just that question of, yeah, but why do you care about this message?
Mhm.
Where's the drive? Where's the energy that's going to say, I've been there. I know where you're at. You can trust me, and take someone on a journey, and then they go blank.
Yeah.
And, also I mean, many of them, a lot of the people that I worked with very early had some sort of um, trauma going on with the brain too, right? Like the trauma had sort of shattered timelines. And so it wasn't like they just were willfully blind. Some of it was about trying to figure out how to repair the story enough so that they could see it. right? How to build enough safety in this part, how to get into the memory because they had um, been pushed out of it so
Hmm.
so distinctly. And people who had actual brain injuries where they were having trouble accessing parts of their brain because of car accidents.
Wow.
It was those opportunities sort of early on that sort of pushed me into this space of how do I help them to access this content without creating so much distress?
Hmm.
Because they were spiraling into distress because here they were face to face with the hardest story or couldn't get to it, were really frustrated because they really wanted to change the world with their message.
Yeah.
Or it was creating distress between me and them because here I was asking this question. And sometimes I became, the person that felt like the person that was the villain in their story, right? Because I kept calling them, where's the content? Where's the, or whatever the case may be. And so that's when I realized the magic of using story in the coaching process. Like I had done when I was in college, sort of using the stories that we love to sort through a lot of the emotion and
Hmm.
wrestle with the themes in safer, like lower risk places, right? The stakes aren't as high when you're talking about Frodo carrying the weight of the world versus the woman who pops off in the middle of the retreat. I am the freaking universe, right? Like these are the things, right? Where she can sort of wrestle with that outside of her and then connect dots that make her having already made decisions about how she'll move through that story
Hmm.
ease into it a little bit better. So it accelerated people's process instead of 18 to 24 months of writing and wrestling. People are generally finishing in 9 to 12. Um,
Amazing.
so that's amazing. And then also for me, like my well-being has increased a ton because now we have this language, this medicine that's between us, this way of talking about it that's so much easier than the sort of story tug of war that was happening in the early days.
Yeah. So speaking of story tug of war, I imagine you'll be very good at this. I would like you to articulate the problems that the best people that come to work with you have that you would solve, and specifically the way that they would say it before meeting you or knowing they're sitting with a friend at a coffee shop and they're saying, these problems are occurring in my business. What would they say or life?
Well, how they usually show up is I can't find the time. There's no time.
Wow.
I keep putting this on the back burner, right? Because
Hmm.
it's too big of a project. Um,
To write a book. I can't find the
Write a
time to
book,
write a book.
right? I can't make this engaging. I write it and I just don't even like it myself. Why would anyone read this? And if they're once we've worked for a while, they will admit that right before they met me, they were sort of sending up a smoke signal to the universe that things really had to change. Like they're tired, they're burning out in the systems that they're in, the work that they're doing. They've been doing a ton of trench work as these high performers, sort of burning out. And and they've learned some things and they're the best of the best where they're at and people want to know how they're doing it, but they can't keep doing it and teach other people. They have to consolidate that elixir that's theirs, and half of them don't even know what it is. They're just
Mhm.
naturally following their superpowers. And so they need someone from the outside who can say, well, I love all of these principles of sales, but what about the way that you showed up in that networking meeting? Like, what principle was that? Well, that was the most easy and natural thing. Everyone does it. I don't do it. That's missing from your outline. Let's figure out where to put it in, things like that.
Mhm. What do you think are the things that you do or believe differently that make your process unique?
I think it's that as an oracle, I really focus people inward. I don't offer quick fixes. I offer a lot of possibilities like this scene is struggling. What if you did something like this, right? Lots of structure, lots of partnership is what I find that most people need through this process. They need someone who's in the trench with them, So I would say, awareness that there's something else going on. It's not just you're writing a book. You're stepping into a new chapter. And that means you're challenging the old one in a lot of ways. And it means that there's a transformation that's going to take place while you're through the writing process. And then the structure and safety, I have a retreat model that invites people to break frame, step out of their lives for a minute where they're pulled in so many directions and have the opportunity to just be with themselves and their own thoughts and other people who are on a similar journey.
Hmm.
Then I work closely with them. It's not, here's a template or here's an outline, go get it. It's, I want your shitty rough draft by the end of the day, and I'm going to show you what we can do together when I send it back. And that immediately alleviates the stress that they have to get it right and perfect and exact on their own. They have an ally with a superpower who can sort of um, accelerate the process. And then I would say, lastly, the community and the accountability. It's most people decide to run with the community, and so they're in retreats together, they're writing together online, they're meeting up weekly to connect and share where they're at and what they're struggling with and how they're getting through it, and to reflect and support each other.
Hmm.
And I find that that just keeps that just right amount of pressure to stay in the game and keep moving through it, because, if they can do it, I can too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so, if we were to imagine outcomes based on these two things that you've shared, it's like not just time to write the book, but time again to be in that zone of genius that you've reclaimed and recognized. You have something that you're proud of, created, and now you are living your business and life in much more in alignment than before. Is there anything else that you think would be worth?
Yeah, I think that alignment piece, it's the ownership of the whole story, so
Hmm.
that there's nothing that sneaks up on them when they get to the stage or they're in a coaching session. And if there is something that sneaks up on them, they've been in a repeated process of facing those things, that they know exactly what to do in that moment. They know how to approach it because they've been doing that through the process of writing.
So you just meant this is something a little bit different, but something sneaks up on them. Is
Mhm.
that so? Is that occurring as a problem right now? Does something sneak up on them?
Mhm.
Like in a like, and are they afraid of this? Is it like I'm afraid to get on stage because I'll say something wrong, or what is an occurrence of something sneaking up on them?
Well, the example that I used earlier with the gentleman who actually wasn't my client, but I just heard that story. But,
Hmm.
I have individuals who, let's say, one example, Lisa wrote a book she launched it last year. And her story was about um, this horrible tragedy that happened to her 15-year-old daughter 15 or 16 years ago. And she had like almost 1,000 pages, I think, of content that she had written through the process, through the tragedy, sort of taking record of everything miraculous that took place. And she also noted the hard days, obviously, but it was always the overstatement, and the emphasis was always on what went well, how God showed up, how people showed up. And so when she tried to put this thing together, she kept running into something and didn't know what it was. And that thing that kept sneaking up on her was grief that was unprocessed. And so when we met, I said, I think that I don't see the mom in your content. And I wonder if it's grief. And I wonder if you might have to cry buckets of tears in order to do this. And that's exactly what needed to happen. So,
Mm.
as she was um, speaking and trying to deliver messages of hope, there was a part of her that was held back and reserved, and people could feel that. And
Yeah.
so you always have to be careful when you have that going on, right? Whether it's conscious or unconscious, you only let yourself go to a certain depth with people in a coaching session or on a stage, because you sort of intuitively know, if I go too far, I'm going to lose something really important. It's that thing that's sneaking up on you.
Fascinating. Okay. Now I want to know about a time where you were afraid something was going to sneak up on you, where you were feeling the same strain of time of managing the success that you created that's no longer aligned with the life that you're living, that you're wrestling with your own worthiness and wondering if you could create something that's engaging or something that somebody would want to hear. You're experiencing burnout. It's hard to do what your superpowers are. You know you're great at what you do, but the process of actually getting people enrolled in it is so hard. When did you feel like this?
Which time? Um, I mean, there were echoes of that in the beginning of, being asked to be part of the classic books program. I was a high performing student, high performing, a valedictorian, could memorize anything. And then I got into this space where they were asking me to think differently. And I fell apart. The wrestling that was happening with the tasks that had to take place and the ideas that I was wrestling with were bringing so much emotion up for me, and I had no way to deal with it. I hadn't been taught how to
Can
feel
you
emotion, to deal with
give
it.
me a precise moment in time and space when you fell apart? A Tuesday afternoon, and I'm in this specific room, and all of a sudden, I've been overwhelmed by this emotion.
Sure. I would say, there was a moment, don't I would say 2009, 2010. I had, been successfully helping people with, the copy editing and helping them fix projects. And I had this idea that I could really help them save time, energy, and a whole lot of emotional distress if I help them from the beginning. And that's when I heard the name of my first business, True to Intention. I heard it, but I didn't know what to deal with it. Then I heard myself saying it to people. Well, this isn't true to your intention. Oh, okay, that's the business. And so, but I was terrified. I didn't know how to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know about marketing or sales or how I would do this in the most powerful way possible. Um, and I also had a bunch of crap happening in the background of my life, right? Stuff going on in my marriage and my finances, and just so much drama that made me feel like, who am I to help other people put their stuff together? And I remember the moment was I was at one of my clients' conferences, and I was saying this out loud to people. I'm thinking blah, blah, blah. And this lady who I just adore said, I think that's the third time you've said that over the last 6 months. What's actually keeping you from doing that? And that little thing that sneaked up on me made me sort of um, give her a hug and run out of the conference, drive home and hide in my bed and listen to the really terrible voices of, who do you think you are? Do you think that there's um like, do you really have purpose? I mean, it went all the way to the darkest stuff. And I had to use, like I ask all my clients, I had to use every skill that I had learned to pull myself out of that dark place. And True to Intention launched a month later.
Describe the room when the woman said, "I think this is whatever time you've said that."
Mhm.
What room did this occur in?
Um, Big ballroom at a hotel, lots of lights and energy. I'm very empathic, so I was overwhelmed by the energy in the room and a little angry about it because, um, it was all about the success that you could create, and it was all this raw energy, when that was the last thing I was feeling. And so lots of light, lots of energy, lots of sound, the buzz of, um, people being inspired and making connections with each other and everything that I wanted and couldn't quite grasp myself.
Lovely. That's great detail. Now, Amanda, I would love to know about a time of the opposite polarity. This would
Mm.
be several years later, probably, maybe just a few months in some cases. But you have time to write your book, you're in your zone of genius, you are proud of who you are, and you are creating things that you're proud of, and you are seeing alignment in your business and your life. And maybe there's like a specific moment as precise as the one you just gave me to you probably the book's been written, and then there's something that happens to confirm this journey I've been on has been worth it.
Yeah, it was, the launch weekend of my first book, Upside Down Mommy, 2013, so a few years later. And I had this burgeoning community that, I decided not to be the cobbler without shoes anymore, write my own freaking book, put myself in a wild position where I had to write it for 6 months. I had to write it in 6 months. And then one of my clients called me and said that he only had 30 days to live and he needed help real quick. So I went on a deep, deep journey for about 3 months, helping him and then grieving him. And then I looked up and I had 3 weeks left to write the book and get it launched before this big launch event that I already had people signing up for and bringing their friends and family. Like there was no going back. And so I remember this moment at that launch event where I had a 3-day event. So the first half day was me launching my book and celebrating bestseller, blah, blah, blah. But then I devoted the next 2.5 days to their dreams and I facilitated this weekend. And I invited a few of my clients who were wanting to sort of test their um, abilities as facilitators, sort of like take a step in. So I coached them and trained them and worked with them and placed them in the right place in the weekend. And there was this moment where one of them had people doing this exercise on a trampoline that she had done. And I remember standing off to the side and I was jumping with every person who got on the trampoline, right? The whole room was just going crazy. And I remember feeling my calves and thinking, I'm not going to be able to walk tomorrow. And I don't care. Like, this is the most me that I have ever felt in my entire life. Like, this room and these people was my mentors. It was my clients. It was my friends from the way, way back all together in one place doing the work that I was facilitating. And I just felt like, wow, all of me is in this room for the first time ever in my life.
Beautiful. Would you like to hear your story?
Yeah, I love it. Yes.
It's 2009, and I'm at a big conference in a big ballroom. Lights, energy, buzz everywhere. I'm successfully helping people with copy editing and helping people fix projects. I've done really great at what I do. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and things have been getting tough. I have dreams of really starting with people from an earlier stage and helping them people help craft and draw out deeper stories. It's exciting. It's something I think about when I watch movies. But somehow the managing everything just takes so much time. And now here I'm at this big room filled with people who are successful, talking about rah things and being energized and connecting. And I feel so fake among them all. I'm smiling, but I'm angry at myself. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I feel like I'm the last person that has anything to say or anything important there. But I smile and I carry on like I'm supposed to. And in conversation, mentioning another one of my desires to someday really help people dig deeper on books and stories. A woman who I've seen a lot mentions, Amanda, you've been saying this for months and you haven't done anything. What's actually stopping you from doing it? And all of a sudden, I feel this tightness inside me, this thing that always seems to sneak up on me when it comes time to really share who I am and stop hiding. And here it is again. I put a big smile on my face to hide how I really feel. I give her a hug and I run away. I drive home, jump into my bed under my covers, and stare up at the ceiling with tears in my eyes. What was keeping me from this? What is keeping me here? This isn't the life that I want. Things in business are hard. My marriage is hard. My finances are hard. I've got so much drama. Who am I to help anyone with this anyway? I didn't know what my purpose was anymore or why I was doing all of these things. And I remember staring up at that ceiling and making myself a promise that I would do something different, that I would find something better for me. I wanted a space to be creative and to be seen in a way that wasn't just trying to achieve another thing, but a process that would focus inward, that would help me step into a new chapter. I didn't want just quick fixes and like tactics and cookie cutter things. I wanted possibilities and inspiration and seeing things in a new light. I wanted a place of structure and partnership of people working together and seeing new things and sharing from a place of safety, exploring the deep stories that meant so much. And I wanted to make this process fun. I wanted to have people that I could share this journey with and share my successes with. Now, this would take a long time and a lot of costly and painful mistakes. But sometime later, I found myself at the launch weekend of my first book, and I was amazed at how different my life had looked. I was surrounded by friends and community the first day we launch and it hits bestseller. And then the really exciting part happens. I dedicate so much space and time for the people I know, the community, the clients that I'm working with to be facilitators, to live their dreams, to live in their zone of genius. Some people are helping and facilitating. I'm seeing one of my friends showing some people this exercise on a trampoline, and I find myself jumping along with every single one. I'm so excited. I'm so happy seeing everybody inspired and creating and celebrating each other. I start to feel a burning in my calves, knowing I'm not going to be able to walk tomorrow, and it doesn't matter because in this moment in my life, I feel the most myself I've ever been. And I realized that this process I had gone through could help so many other brilliant achievers in the same place. And in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly how we're going to create that effect for you.
Love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. You captured some really important details that I have been leaving out. Thank you.
Oh, well, it's an honor to be able to share the same gift that
Mm.
you so brilliantly facilitate in others.
We need other people to see our story.
Absolutely. Amanda, do you have any closing thoughts for us today, and where can we go to learn more?
Closing thoughts? Find someone who can listen and reflect like this guy. Um, and people can find me over at savedbystory.house, which is where we're doing all the writing and publishing work. If they want to sort of take a a little wade into the waters, we have they /foreshadows. They can see a bunch of free offers that we give people sort of everywhere on the journey.
Mhm.
And then the story oracle. That's the work I'm taking all this narrative resilience work that I've seen people develop across these 20 years, and I'm sort of packaging that up for other professionals, therapists and educators and people who um, would love to figure out how to use story to make their lives easier, to make the work happen faster.
Amazing. Amanda Johnson, thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast.
You.